All right, welcome to chapter 5. This is a big chapter with lots of vocab words, and you've already started, or we've already started, our angle pair foldable on Friday. So have that handy because we are going to be adding stuff to that. Lots of angle pairs today. All right. Also, hopefully you have your vocab sheet because we're going to be adding lots of vocabulary terms as well. So that looks like this. Okay, so starting with on slide number 1, we are going to go through perpendicular and parallel lines. That should not sound foreign to you. We've talked about perpendicular and parallel lines before, back in 7th grade, 6th grade, probably even in 5th or 4th. Okay, perpendicular means they meet at a 90-degree angle, and parallel means that they never cross. They are the exact same distance away all the time. A couple things I want to point out is the notation. When you see this right here, that means line M is perpendicular to line N, like that upside down capital T, and then parallel, they write it like this. So if you see that, or we're going to be using that notation of it later, so make sure we understand what that means. And if you notice here, lowercase cursive letters is how we label lines. It's one way you can label lines, okay? So here is a bunch of vocabulary terms, a bunch of them, all from this chapter, and all we're going to add either to our foldable or foldable and your vocab sheet, okay? So the very first one we are going to add is this interior angles, all right? Interior angles. Take out your angle pairs. It's actually, interior angles aren't necessarily angle pairs, but there's a reason we're putting them on here. Okay, so interior angles, we're going to put in our 3rd tab right here. Okay, and then you can go ahead and fold those up so you're ready to write in them. Interior angles. All right. In interior angles, when you have 2 lines cut by a transversal. So 2 lines cut by a transversal. Let me get my... So I'm just going to draw 2 lines. Now notice the 2 lines I'm drawing aren't necessarily going to be parallel. All right, 2 lines cut by a transversal. And these are words and terms that will belong on your vocab sheet. So when 2 lines are cut by a transversal, you have a whole bunch of angles. You actually have 8 of them. Well, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 angles that are formed. Okay, so interior angles, and I should label this right here is your transversal. So the interior angles are angles that lie inside of the 2 intersected lines. So angles that lie inside the 2 intersected lines. Okay, whether your intersected lines run this way or perhaps they look like this, the interior angles are the ones inside of them. So I'm going to go ahead and circle those right here. 3, 4, 5, and 6 would be interior angles. Okay, then so right along with that, we have exterior angles. So the next tab is going to be exterior angles. So I'm going to flip that. I'm going to draw 2 lines cut by a transversal. And this time I'm going to draw my lines differently so you can see a different version. I'm going to draw my 2 lines kind of in a vertical fashion, and my transversal I'm going to have go from right to left. So once again, this is my transversal right there. Okay, and again I have 8 angles. I have these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so since you figured out that interior angles were the ones inside of the two lines, then angles that lie outside the two intersected lines. Lines. I can't write very well. All right, so in this example, my two intersected lines run this way, so all the angles outside of them, which in this case would be, and I forgot to write on that first one, I'm going to remember when we were notating angles, it is angle 1, comma, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 8, and I forgot to write that on the interior, so I'm going to flip back and write that. This was angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, and angle 6, okay? That's how we note them. Those are interior and exterior angles. All right, besides that, here comes our angle pair, our alternate interior angles. So on the next tab, we have alternate interior angles. All right, so now again, in this case, I'm going to draw two parallel lines. So we just talked about that, but I'm going to draw as parallel as I can. It's pretty tough to do when you're just eyeballing it. Okay, so there's a parallel, and there's one line, and here's one pretty close to parallel. Now, because I just hand drew them, I can't guarantee that they're parallel. So the best way to note that is by drawing these little triangles on there. When you see those on there, you can assume that they are indeed parallel. I'm going to draw a transversal, and I'm going to label my 8 angles again. 1, 2, 3, 4, just changing it up, 5, 6, 7, 8, all sorts of different ones. It doesn't matter what I label and what you label, so as long as you understand which ones are which. Now, alternate interior, let's think about what that means. Interior obviously means I am talking about inside angles, and this is a pair. So this is two interior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal and opposite lines. So opposite sides of the transversal and opposite lines. What do I mean by that? I mean that, hold on one second, I'm going to grab some colors. If one of my angles is right here, angle 3, then the alternate interior angle with that one is on the opposite side of the transversal and on the opposite line. So it's on this side of the transversal and on the other line. They are actually never touching. And what's important to remember about this is as long as the lines are parallel, they will be congruent. When lines are parallel, meaning they are equal to one another. So not only is 3 and 5 a pair, but so are 4 and 6. They are alternate interior, and they are going to be congruent because these two lines are parallel. All right. Another set on the next tab, we've got alternate exterior. This is very, very, very similar. Again, I'm going to draw parallel lines. So So you probably want to get a straight edge. I should have said that earlier. So here are my pretty close to parallel lines. How do I make sure you understand? By drawing my triangles. I'm going to cut it with a transversal. And I'm going to label my angles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 2 exterior angles, so alternate exterior angles, you may have already guessed, are 2 exterior angles that lie on opposite sides of the transversal and opposite lines. And again, just like interior, alternate exterior will be congruent when lines are parallel. Not a very good job of drawing parallel lines there. So again, I'm going to have to pick different colors so you guys can see these. Alternate exterior would be like angle 1 and 7. Opposite lines, opposite sides of the transversal. And then angle 2. Can't see that very well. And angle 8. All right. Now, one more pair. And the last one we have, oh, I should have left that down there. I should have left that down there right here. So you can see where to write that. I'm going to write corresponding angles. Now again, we need to draw parallel lines. This time, changing it up here, I'm going to draw my parallel lines this way. How do you know they're parallel? Because of that. Cut by a transversal. It gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 angles. So, corresponding angles are 2 angles that are in the same position on separate lines in relation to the transversal. What that means is, if you see this, you have this group of 4 and this group of 4, the angles that are in the same position. So for example, angle 1 is in the same position as angle 3. They are corresponding. They're on opposite lines, but in the same position with respect to the transversal. Angle 2 and angle 4 are in the same position. Angle 5, running out of colors here, and angle 7 are in the same position. And then the last one set here, 6 and 8 are in the same position. All right, so, and again, if our lines are parallel, what can you guess? Will be congruent when lines are parallel. That is a super important thing. So you can keep this and you can always look back on these, and they're really easy. Hopefully that little color coding helps you. All right, and you can take a moment or two some other time and transfer those onto your note or your vocab sheet if you want. All right, but why are all these words important? Well, what you're going to have to do is give examples. Okay, classify each pair as alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding. So angle 1 and angle 7, that's right here and right here. Well, they're exterior, and now the opposite sides of the transversal, they're alternate exterior angles. 2 and 6, right there and right there. One is exterior, one is interior. Well, they're not going to be alternate, okay? So they are corresponding, because if you see, both of them are on the top right in terms of the transversal and the 2 parallel lines. So they are corresponding angles. All right, how about angle 4 and 6? This angle and this angle. First thing I'm going to point out, hey, guess what? They're both interior, and you'll see they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So they are alternate interior angles. Notice my abbreviation. You are welcome to use that as long as you understand what they mean. Okay, let's slide over to slide number 4. Again, alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding. So 2 and 4. Find 2 and 4 here and here. Okay, they are corresponding. 4 and 5, alternate exterior. 3 and 6, alternate interior angles. 1 and 3, and 2 and 7, if you have any questions on that, make sure you review those on your foldable. All right, let's flip our sheet over. We've got one last day here, one last sheet for today. All right, as long as lines are parallel, they want you to name all the corresponding angles. So it should be angle 1 and angle 5, angle 2 and angle 6, angle 3 and angle 7, angle 4 and angle 8. All right, here's some of our old terms that we did on Friday. So classify them as complementary, supplementary, or neither. Remember, complementary adds up to 90, supplementary adds up to 180, and neither, well, doesn't add up to either. So 75 plus 35 is 110. That's a neither. 105 and 75, that's 180. That's supplementary. And then 32 plus 58 is 90, so complementary. All right, that's all for this half of the lesson. We are going to talk more about those interior, exterior, alternate interior, and all those other angles on the next lesson on the second half of lesson 1, chapter 5. All right, well, that's all for now. Peace out.